Hi, so this is a tutorial regarding the standing hamstring curl machine, and there is essentially one component that you really have to focus on, and that's movement at the knee joint. If you're doing that properly, then no other joint should be moving, which is commonly a mistake made by a lot of people. They allow the hips to rise and move, which then allows movement and force to be generated through the low back rather than at the knee and rather than at the hamstring. That is why a lot of people use a lot of weight on this exercise, and arguably they end up loading less of the hamstring. So the goal to this movement is to stabilize the pelvis, keep it in a controlled and secured position so that you're able to freely move the knee joint and the knee joint alone. So we're going to look at two pieces of footage today, one being a poorer or more common form of the standing hamstring curl movement variety, and then we're going to look at the modifications that I've made. Here we go. So as you can see, my hips are rising and my back is curving and tightening, and that's allowing my low back to throw and propagate the weight up rather than using my hamstrings alone. Because a larger degree of the load is being placed on my low back, this is not going to be great for people with low back problems, issues, anything like that. So what you want to do is you want to remove the amount of movement that's occurring through that range, and that involves stabilizing the pelvis, keeping it locked down and placing the load predominantly on the hamstring. This is also the reason why people lift an inordinate amount of weight in this exercise, because they're incorporating a lot of muscles rather than isolating one. As you can see in this movement, I'm contracting my glutes and I'm keeping them contracted throughout the duration of the exercise. What this is doing is it's stabilizing my pelvis and allowing only the knee joint to move freely. In this manner, we can maximize the load placed on the hamstring and reduce the load placed on other non-specific areas. So there are a few things I wanted to discuss in relation to the video that you just watched. For starters, you'll notice that my back was curved. This is to better align my pelvis or my hips with my working leg. So the leg that is actually doing and performing the exercise in the video. The benefit of this is that it allows me to better contract my glutes, thus stabilizing the pelvis over the working leg. And what it also does, passively, is that it allows the hamstring of that leg to be shortened. And so it allows me to place a larger degree of tension on that hamstring, which will result in using a substantially lowered weight, because you're now restricting the amount of movement that's being utilized through other components. So for example, in the poorer form video I showed you at the start, people, or myself, I was using my low back to propel the weight upwards. This is disadvantageous because it uses a lot of different muscle groups to perform the targeted exercise and to actually stimulate the targeted muscle fiber. So by stabilizing the pelvis and shortening the muscle range, we can actually predominantly load the hamstring, and that will require a lighter weight. What you may also see by doing this is that it also may restrict the actual range of the movement. You may find that you're not able to bend and curve your leg up as far as you were before. That's perfectly normal, and just make sure to keep the load and the tension on that muscle. And if you can build up that cramping feeling and really build up the load and the tension in the muscle, then you're doing the right job. Cool.